Hi there, everyone. Welcome to another one of my album reviews. My name is Christian Eschbach, and today we are looking at the legendary album from The Who, Tommy. I'm going to be using just the jacket for this one because I've had this for so long that it's just hard to read the back of the original now. That, if I remember correctly, was a cheese single wrapper that somehow melted to it. I don't remember. It's been a very long time. That was decades ago. I've had this for that long. So I love Tommy. I love everything about Tommy. I love the whole story behind Tommy. I will totally get into that. I love the movie. I love the musical. The original source material. Little hit and miss with. Let me start with I love The Who. The Who are a fantastic band, but The Who came out very early on, so they could definitely be an experimental band in certain ways. But in other ways, they were a very kind of young and immature band. I know everybody loves to speak of Pete Townsend as God, but his guitar work sometimes, not always, but sometimes makes me just kind of bang my head off the wall a little bit. And on this album, now my biggest problem with this album is probably that it needs a digital remaster. The production quality itself, the sound quality, the audio itself just kind of lacks. I've listened to it on vinyl through a solid stereo system, and I've listened to it on CD, and I've listened to it on cassette, and every medium. And at the end of the day, the production. The production is my whole issue with this, for the most part. Because there is fantastic music on here. There are some songs that I'm just not fond of, but that's a different story. I'll get into that. Real quickly, though, I'm going to show you some album cover work, because it is very lovely. And then we got this inside sleeve. And then we got that little jacket right there as well. Got all the lyrics in here, which are great. And one thing I love about the lyrics in here is it's got all the individual characters marked out on here, because there are different characters in different parts of here. Once again, this was an opera. It was meant for multiple people to perform the way I see it. There are multiple people in the band, but there's a reason why, Pete Townsend isn't necessarily the person known as the vocalist for The Who. So, if you're not familiar with Tommy at all, Tommy is the story of... Oh, should I cover this song? No, I'm just going to tell you the whole story, okay. So, the music through here tells the whole story of Tommy's life, basically from beginning to end. Or maybe not necessarily to end. It depends on how you want to take it. Tommy's born, Tommy goes through life, and there's an event that traumatizes Tommy. So he loses his sight and his hearing, and he can't speak. They use the term in here, deaf, dumb, and blind, is the term they like to use in here, because that was the vernacular of the time. So what happens is the opening of the music is basically going through Tommy's life, setting up the storyline, kind of explaining, each song kind of has its own little intricate part into his life. So when we start getting into the music on this album, the first thing I got to do is I kind of got to give a little bit of the story, because the story kind of goes with the music. Well, not kind of. The story does go with the music. But The idea behind Tommy is the first few songs. Like, you got the overture, which is a wonderful opening to the whole thing. It sets it up, gives a wonderful themes that kind of repeat throughout the album, and a wonderful vibe, wonderful kind of feel and whatnot to it. The music in it is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoy it. But you got basically Overture and It's a Boy kind of blend that up, which tells that bit of the story. And then you go Did You Hear It? The Amazing Journey and Sparks. That's kind of the whole story kind of going on, setting things up, setting up Tommy's mom and her lover kind of getting together and, kind of getting it on. And, as it's going through here, when you get to Sparks, by the end of it, the idea is supposed to be Tommy goes deaf and blind after watching his mother and her lover kill his dad. It could be a little clearer in here than it is, but if you've seen the movie or the musical, it clears it up for you real easy. So that sets up the premise of how Tommy goes blind, tells the story of it. From there we go to Eyesight for the Blind, which is a fun little song, kind of getting into trying to find little cures for Tommy, little faith healing, we'll call it. Eyesight to the Blind would be faith healing. Then you go into the next song, which is Christmas, which is them talking about how Tommy's missing out on Christmas and how Tommy can't be saved because he can't accept Jesus Christ because he doesn't know who Jesus Christ is, because of being blind, deaf, and dumb, 1969, it was the times. Now this is where it starts getting into more serious and interesting kind of ideas, because the next song is Cousin Kevin. And Cousin Kevin is this abusive little psychopath who's been left alone to take care of Tommy and just abuses the living shit out of him. And he's just honestly a monster the whole way around. And that goes into Acid Queen. And Acid Queen is... Okay, so you know what acid is. We're talking about the actual drug here, okay, when we're talking Acid Queen. And the Acid Queen, the idea is supposed to be expanding Tommy's mind to get him to open up. They're pumping him full of drugs, whatever what they can do to try and, get him all jacked up and maybe elicit some type of reaction out of him. And it does elicit a reaction out of him. It kind of blows his mind and sends him on this totally surreal trip. And that surreal trip is the music that we get in the next track, which is Underture. I love Underture. Underture is a fantastic musical piece the whole way around. It's really spectacular. I love everything it does. The drumming in here by Keith Moon is just top notch. I was so inspired by Underture that there was one point, there was a band I had been working with that we were using it as our temporary working name even. And I had taken it directly from here, it's brilliant. And there's more themes that carry on throughout here as well. I will say one thing. I've mentioned already I don't like the production. One of the reasons I don't care for the production is on a song like Underture, where Keith Moon's got to be hitting that bass drum. You can't really hear the kick in there. You can hear him going nuts on the toms and everything like that. He's doing these beautiful rolls all over the toms and stuff like that. But you really don't hear the kick going on. And for me as a drummer, that kind of is annoying. And that happens a lot in older music, I hate to say. Now, we go into another collection of tracks after that. Do You Think It's Alright? And Fiddle About. Now, Do You Think It's Alright is this little lead-in that's talking about, is it okay to leave Tommy with, I believe it's Uncle Ernie in this case, because he's had a few too many, which leads into Fiddle About, and how Uncle Ernie is a twisted pervert that molests Tommy, who can't do anything to save or protect himself. Which then brings us to Pinball Wizard. Now, I'm going to stop right here before we get to Pinball Wizard. One complaint I do have about this is I really do think that Do You Think It's Alright and Fiddle About should have come after Acid Queen. Or even after Cousin Kevin. Coming after the Underture, I think, is wrong in here because the Underture should go directly into Pinball Wizard as far as I'm concerned. Because if you watch the movie, and I believe even in the stage play, they show this. The Underture is where Tommy actually discovers the pinball machine for the first time, and this junk in the movie is in a junkyard, and he just kind of magically finds his way there by chasing his own kind of glowing essence through a mirror. And it's this long-winded thing, kind of going on where there's this beautiful discovery about it. Cinematically, it's magnificent. I know a lot of people like to rag on the Tommy movie. I think it's fucking primo. But anyways, but Pinball Wizard should come after Underture, in my opinion, because after this whole discovery, that's when all of a sudden we get into the legendary. You just hear those giant Pete Townsend windmills going on in there and shit like that. And, that's when you start getting into the story of Tommy being the Pinball Wizard. And at this point, he's still deaf and blind, right? And the story of Pinball Wizard is telling how he's playing this and how he's doing this great, amazing thing. And it's like, but no one knows or understands truly how he's doing it. They guess that he's playing by sense of smell, Wonderful song. And myself, I'm a huge pinball fan, so really this album just kind of gets to me in its own thing. And I'm not a pinball fan because of this. I was a pinball fan long before I discovered Tommy. And once I discovered Tommy, the pinball thing is actually kind of what drew me to it even more. One of my favorite pinball machines to this day is actually the Tommy musical pinball machine. It's fantastic. Now from there, we go into There's a Doctor I Found, Go to the Mirror, and Tommy, Can You Hear Me? This is all kind of getting into Tommy's psychological behavior, because Tommy's basically one of the reasons why he's attracted, you could say, to the pinball is because the pinball is like a mirror to him. It's that whole shiny reflective surface, blah, 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 blah. You can see himself in it, whether it's himself, his distortion, whatnot. When you watch the movie, it shows that Tommy can see himself even though he can't see anything else, but that's all he's seeing is himself. He's not seeing anything else. He doesn't see the world around him. He doesn't see anything. He just sees himself. It's like when you're in a mirror and you're just staring in your own eye. When you get really hammered and you're just sitting there in the mirror and you're staring in your own eyes and like you're trying to almost think yourself sober. That's kind of almost what's going on here with Tommy. It's the best way I know how to put it. And that brings us to Smash the Mirror, which is all about, Tommy smashing the mirror, going through the mirror, and all of a sudden he's back in the world again. He can see the world. He's part of the world again, which takes us into Sensation, and that's all him talking about how he's now alive again. He's part of the world. He's going out there, and he's going to try and bring people in to teach people how he sees the world after being locked inside for so long. He's going to, which that brings us to Miracle Cure. Miracle Cure is just kind of this little joke, little piece there, like on here it marks it as 11 seconds. It's kind of one of those things I talk about with musicals. I haven't on video yet for, my reviews, but I've talked with friends and that about musicals in the past. I hate it. It's those little fluff pieces where they just throw it in to kind of half-ass tell a story. And that goes into Sally Simpson. I'm not a fan of Sally Simpson. I really feel like Sally Simpson's just kind of thrown in here just kind of for the hell of it. It doesn't really progress the story. Like, it kind of shows how people flock to Tommy, and that's the idea behind Sally Simpson, is they're showing a flocking to Tommy, how people are being inspired and want to get into it and whatnot. But I think they could have achieved it better than the way they do with Sally Simpson. Sally Simpson is just kind of, it feels like they threw a character in there for the hell of throwing a character in there, like, If you watch the movie, they literally throw this character in there out of nowhere who's there honestly for 5 seconds and disappears. Someone just kind of, it's a cameo. It's a bad cameo used to kind of progress the story a little. There we go into I'm Free, which is basically, Tommy explaining how he's free and how everybody else can be free as well by following him, and how they're free to follow him. And there's a lot of imagery in here and a lot of religion. The movie focuses a lot on Christianity specifically. I think that's because it's the easiest one to do. When you look at the artwork on here, there's not a lot of focus really into any type of specific spirituality or religious doctrine or whatnot. It's kind of more, to me, this whole entire thing is kind of poking fun at faith healing almost in a way, which is, poking fun at faith healing, saying you can find healing through playing pinball. And that's how I take this. And then you got, from After I'm Free, that leads into Welcome in Tommy's Holiday Camp. So welcoming everybody there, and then talking about how they're going to need more space and stuff like that. And I feel that this is handled better in the movie than it really is on the album. And the movie came, honestly, like a solid, 5-6 years later, if I remember correctly. It might even been 7 or 8 years later. And Tommy's Holiday Camp is another little fluff piece where it's just kind of, hey, look, we're at Tommy's Holiday Camp. And this leads to the very end of the album and the last song, We're Not Gonna Take It. And I absolutely love this. And it's not really one song. I find it funny because a lot of them on here, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this properly or not. A lot of them on here, they break it down. They show that how they're multi-part songs. But We're Not Gonna Take It, well, clearly sounding like a multi-part song, because there's the We're Not Gonna Take It part, and then there's a little more afterwards, and then there's kind of like this big climatic ending almost. And the whole way around, it's this beautiful 7-minute long song that I'm surprised they don't break up into different parts for labeling on here. Wonderful, wonderful piece. Musically, this is a fantastic album. Pete Townsend, I'm not overly huge on his guitar work on this album. I don't think it was anything spectacular or anything to go nuts overly praising. Yes, he is a fantastic guitarist. Yes, he has written some of the greatest songs ever. Yes, this is a great album that he predominantly wrote with John Entwistle and Keith Moon throwing in the odd track here and there. But it's not... It's not what others might hype it up to be. It's... If you're to compare this to, say, Pink Floyd's The Wall, The Wall's gonna kind of make this look a little you know what I'm saying? And it's not because The Wall is this great, giant, overly produced, wonderful epic. It's just that the music is a little tighter. It's a little stronger. It's, the band, well, they weren't as together at that point, sounds a little more together. The album sounds a little more together. This, even comparing this to contemporaries, like if you were to compare this to, say, Sgt. Pepper, the difference between this and Sgt. Pepper is you can play this live on stage with just the 4 members of The Who, whereas you can't with, Sgt. Pepper, right? So, it is a fantastic album, but it does have its shortcomings. Myself, I watched the movie a lot more than I listened to the album. I'm going to be completely honest. I would rather throw the album on, I'd rather throw the movie on, even in the background as background music, than throw this CD in. if they released a digital remaster where you could hear John Entwistle's bass better and you could hear, Keith Moon's kick drum, and, they were able to kind of maybe separate the vocals a little better and just kind of liven it up more. Like the whole way around, I love to hear a nice, fully digitally remastered, wonderfully done up version. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but it would be great. If I get my hands on it, it'd be fantastic. But as it is for now, this is the album we've got. That's how I feel about it. And feel free to let me know what you think. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to be impressed with some of the stuff I said. But let's be clear, this is an amazing album, and this is something that I do believe all classic rock fans should own. Just the musical pieces, or even just overture, underture, and We're Not Gonna Take It, to me are worth it alone. And that's before you get into Pinball Wizard. So anyways, yeah, like I said, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe so you get notifications when new ones come out. Otherwise, peace, love, and take care.